Dubey sir, you can introduce Rajan Chandy sir, please.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back this Sunday again. Our speaker this morning is Mr. Rajan Chandy. Many of us know him. He is going to talk to us on the future is now. But for those who are not aware of Mr. Chandy, I'll briefly introduce him. Mr. Rajan Chandy completed his BSc in physics from Loyola College, Chennai in 1970, after which he studied law at the Bangalore University, but was mainly a political activist during the years 70 to 80. Having many questions about political activism and the whole meaning of life, etc., he quit in 1981 and went to Germany, Heidelberg University, where he studied Western philosophy and Indology from 1981 to 1988. There he was struggling with the limitations of Western philosophy when he accidentally stumbled upon the teachings of Buddha, Krishnamurti and Ramana Maharshi all around the same time. This changed the trajectory of his life and he returned to India. He worked in the developmental sector for some years, which also did not satisfy him. In 1995, he came to Rishi Valley school with his wife and a 3-year-old daughter. He has been in Rishi Valley since then, interacting with the students, teaching economics, and pursuing his own inner questions. Before I request Chandy sir to begin his talk, I want to thank him profusely for accepting our offer to be here today and to give a talk before the Indore Krishnamurti Study Circle. And I want to extend a very warm welcome to him. Rajan sir, you can take as long as you want, so long you leave about 20-25 minutes for people to ask questions or express their opinions. So you can begin now. Please unmute yourself. Yeah, unmuted now. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Dubeji. It's a pleasure to be here again with all of you. I don't know exactly how long I'll take. I'm assuming the whole session is about 1.5 hours. So
yes.
Yeah. So anyway, I doubt I'll take more than an hour. It'll probably make much less, so we can have more time for discussion. I'm decided to talk on this statement of Krishnaji, the future is now. It is, in my opinion, one of the Mahavakyas of Krishnaji. You know, just like in the Upanishads, you speak of Mahavakyas, you can speak of some Mahavakyas of Krishnaji. This is one of them. And I thought I'd take it up and look at it more closely with all of you. Now, this statement, the future is now, I think the context in which Krishnaji made this is when he was criticizing having ideals like nonviolence. And he says, you have an ideal of nonviolent, but the fact is you're violent. Right now, you're violent. You want harm to come to others. You want to harm others, either directly or indirectly. And therefore, you know, your nonviolence, declarations of nonviolence don't mean anything because the future is now. Now, what did he mean when he said the future is now? The way I understand it, he said, if there is violence in your mind now, then in the future also there will be violence in your mind. The time for transformation is now. If you don't transform now and there is, say, violence or anger or anything, attachment, jealousy, any of these things in your mind now, then why is it that in the future they will arise again? The way I understand it is that any mental act and thinking about people in a negative way, wanting harm to come to them, what we understand by violence is a negative act. Any negative act, or for that matter, positive act, leaves a trace in the mind. And therefore, in future, this seed or trace will get activated easily. We all know that some people are very short-tempered and others have a lot of patience. Now, why is that? It's because a short-tempered person gets angry easily, and each time he gets angry, he strengthens the seeds of anger within himself. So that in future, if some small kind of provocation arises, he immediately gives rise to a great deal of anger. So whereas a person who has not given into anger, who has developed patience, with the same provocation in future, he will not easily get angry. So when Krishnaji is saying the future is now, he seems to be saying that the kind of mental states that we entertain and cultivate at the moment are the kind of mental states which will recur again and again in our lives. And that if we want to change from, say, be non-violent, we would have to be non-violent right now. Not something that I'm violent now, yes, that's true, but in the future, I will be non-violent. Now, implicit in this is some notion of the effects of one's actions or the consequences of one's actions. Here, more the effects of one's actions and long-term effects. We may well say that if you're angry now, then the immediate effect is that people get disturbed, your own mind is in a disturbed state, and though you may feel some temporary pleasure at shouting at somebody, it's not a pleasant state of mind even in the aftermath of your anger, and definitely other people get injured by anger. So your anger is injuring yourself and others in the immediate present. But Krishnaji seems to be saying more than that. He seems to be saying that this anger, which is in your mind, affects you in future also. It makes you predisposed to getting angry. And therefore, if you entertain these states in your mind right now, the future is not going to be any different. In fact, it's going to be a repetition of the same. Now, what are the implications of this statement of Krishnaji? It means that if we want to change, we have to begin the change right away. It is not something we can do in the future. You can only act in the present. And here we're talking about in the mind. We're not talking about actually speaking verbally angrily at someone or beating somebody up. We're just saying in the mind, you're angry with somebody. And we'll stick to that. So we have to change that in our own minds right away. If we want any change to happen in the future. This seems to be the implication of what he says. Now, what are the kinds of things? Anger is one, violence, but also attachment, jealousy, pride. These are all states of mind which arise again and again in us. For example, pride, we may think we are superior because of some quality we have which somebody else doesn't have, or we think they don't have. We may even imagine that we have such quality and therefore feel superior because of that. It may be a totally imagined quality. There may be somebody far better than me in something, in mathematics, say. But I imagine that, he's somewhat better than me, but, I'm almost as good as him. That's one form of pride. But it may be also that somebody is my equal, and I think I'm better than him. That's another form of pride. It may be that somebody doesn't have quite the same qualities as I do. His knowledge of mathematics is weak compared to mine. But when I look down on him, that is again a form of pride. So pride itself has many forms. So has attachment. So has jealousy. Yeah? And anger. Anger can be a full-blown anger. It can be a mild resentment. Now, why does this happen? Why does anger arise in our minds? Anger arises in our minds because we are unhappy. When we are unhappy about something, that's when we get angry about the situation or with a person. Why are we unhappy about something? We are unhappy because things are not happening the way we would like them to happen. People are not behaving the way we would like them to behave. And people are saying things maybe about us which we feel are wrong. Therefore, all these things make us unhappy. If you go deeper into it, it is always, unhappiness is related to some kind of self-image. We think we are, very important, very great, and people don't show us that respect that we think is due to us. That makes us unhappy. It may not immediately make us angry, but we nurture that unhappiness within our minds by thinking about it again and again, by looking back at the situation and strengthening that kind of narrative about the situation, saying, why did she behave like that? She shouldn't have behaved like that. She's not giving me the respect that is due to me, and so on. And that increases the unhappiness in our minds. This unhappiness can lead to a simmering resentment or into a full-blown expression of anger where we shout at a person. Or it may lead to, because we are unhappy about this, avoiding such a person, not being able to look them in the eye, relating to them, in a non-normal way. In many different ways, the actions can take place. But the reason for this anger is always this self-image. And the self-image is always related to some idea of oneself as being good, important, significant, and so on, and others not respecting that or not living up to what you think is due to you. So what is the root of this unhappiness is some notion of self. This notion of self is something that we have cultivated. But this notion of self, or this image of self that we have, is relatively crude. It's based on a desire for praise, recognition, desire for pleasure, a desire maybe for wealth, and fear, corresponding fear of being criticized, of losing one's reputation, and maybe losing one's wealth, pleasure being thwarted. So any of these things which we pursue much of the time can be damaged by the action of somebody. And then because we are strongly attached to these things, namely pleasure, wealth, praise, and reputation, we get very upset when somebody blocks it or says something contrary to it or speaks to somebody else in a way where that person stops giving us the kind of respect that he or she gave us. All these things make us unhappy. This unhappiness, as I said, can give rise to resentment or full-blown anger. So the root of this is unhappiness, and the root of unhappiness is the self-image. Now, when anger arises in our mind, all these things are happening. The self-image is being attacked or destroyed or not so strong. It's being undermined by what somebody is doing or saying. And This is what makes us unhappy, consequently angry. But why is it that we are so caught up in these things? As I said, there is a crude image of the self here as being, somebody of great importance and so on. But there is also the fact that in the past, we have again and again nurtured the self-image, again and again reacted negatively when somebody in any way challenged or damaged the self-image. And therefore, there are strong seeds of anger and resentment against us. In fact, most of us build narratives about ourselves. And in these narratives, we categorize people according to where they fit in, whether they enhance our self-image, in which case we like them, we attach to them, or whether they damage our self-image, in which case we dislike them or even hate them. Now, when Krishnaji is saying the future is now, if you're getting angry at this moment, as I said, all these things are functioning. Our past narrative, these seeds of anger, something somebody is saying, and very often it may not be something they've actually said, but something we imagine that they have said. Because when we have this negative image about somebody, because they have damaged our own self-image, then we tend to read everything they do in a certain light. They may have said something quite innocently, but for us, it's read in a certain way and understood in a certain way. Now, how do we actually, in the present moment, understand all this? Generally, what we understand in the present moment is only what we think is the fact of somebody saying something hurtful to us or harmful and so on. We are not seeing all these interlocking events. So we need to look carefully, and we need to be able to recognize clearly when something is arising in our mind. If we don't recognize it as and when it is arising in our mind, we will give rise again to the, I'm just taking anger as an example. We'll give rise again to anger, resentment, or it may be jealousy or something else. And we will strengthen further these seeds. The more we strengthen the seeds of anger within us, the more it is likely to arise in future, the more our perception of the world gets distorted. The only time we can actually work against this way of living and being in the world is in the present moment. So when Krishnaji says that the future is now, what he is asking us in a way is to be very alert and mindful to what is going on in our minds from moment to moment. And when we see these things arising in our mind, Krishnaji always felt that once you see it for what it is, then nobody needs to tell you to let go of it. When you see a cobra, you won't go near it. That is the analogy he often gave. So when you see this cobra of anger arising in your mind, or this cobra of jealousy, of attachment, whatever it is, when you see it arising in your mind, if you're alert, you will let go of it. What happens when you let go of it? Not act on it, not allow it to grow and proliferate in your mind, simply drop it. What happens then is that those seeds get weakened. And when the seeds get weakened in the future, when there is a similar provocation, you don't get affected. But on the contrary, if you allow yourself to get react, then the seeds get strengthened. And in the future, you are more prone, more likely to develop these states of mind. So what this statement, the future now, is asking us to do is to be very alert and to see clearly things which are damaging to us and things which enhance our being. Anything that is damaging to us is always linked to some self-image. This kind of self-image that I've been talking about, as I said, is relatively crude. It's based on a strong desire for recognition and approval and pleasure and so on in this life. However, there may be people who have seen through this and don't get so angry if somebody criticizes them or, doesn't pay them the kind of respect that they feel is due to them. They don't get angry because these things don't matter that much to them. They've realized that having a good reputation, being praised, all these things are, they're not things of substance. Why are they not of substance? Because somebody may praise you today and criticize you tomorrow. You may have a good reputation today and tomorrow you may have a bad reputation. The opinions of the world keep changing. They are not reliable. And even if for your whole life you manage to maintain a reasonably good reputation, none of this will help you at the time of death. At the time of death, whether you have a good reputation or not a good reputation, neither of these is going to affect the process of death. Now, Krishnaji also pointed out to that when in his last talks in Vasant Vihar in Chennai, he said, don't be attached to anything. And he gives us a reason for that. And this is a time when he knows he's going to die also. At the time of death, you have to part with all this. You will be separated from this. So there may be a person who has understood the futility of all these things, wealth and reputation and so on, and has devoted himself to pursuing a more spiritual life. So he is not so affected by these things. He doesn't get angry. But he still may have a self-image of himself as a religious person, as a holy being, still feeling that he is superior to others. So he may have the pride of religiosity. So these things may not affect him, but other things will. So this level of grasping onto a self and building a self-image can become more and more subtle. You think you have given up the self-image in terms of what other people are running after. You're not bothered about those things. You don't have any image relating to that. But you may have a deeper image of yourself, more subtle image of yourself. Yeah. So, this level of subtlety can become deeper and deeper, and at its root is the grasping at the idea that there is such a self. There is a Rajan independent of his present body and mind. And this Rajan, holding on to this Rajan becomes important. This Rajan must be protected, preserved, promoted. Okay, these ideas are what gives rise to different kinds of self-images. So we have to be very perceptive to see that in the present moment, no such self-image is arising. We begin where we are. I said it, many of us are at a crude level. Certainly, I think I am. At a crude level where, it's important to me that people praise me, think well of me, and so on. But even if I say I'm becoming aware of this and I give up those kind of feelings and attachments, as I said, that doesn't mean that I have given up all grasping at a notion of Rajan being somebody, Rajan becoming enlightened, giving up these worldly concerns. Until you do that, it is a matter of time before another self-image gets built. And with each self-image, all these emotions of pride, anger, jealousy, envy, attachment, and so on can emerge. So what Krishnaji is asking us when he says the future is now, and asking us to be perceptive, is to see this whole matrix of grasping at self and the kind of negative emotions that disturbing, afflictive states of mind which arise because of this grasping at self, to be aware of it and to drop it. Now, I don't think, though there are occasions when Krishna says it, that if you drop it once, it's over and done. In that moment, you have not assented to this way of looking at the world, this way of thinking, and at yourself, and not assented to these kind of self-images and the grasping at self, or any of these afflictive emotions. But there are more ancient seeds within us of these afflictive emotions. And until they are completely eradicated, there is no final enlightenment. So that is a process which takes time. When Krishnaji says there is no time involved, I think he means at the present moment, when you act, there is no time. You're acting now, and what are you doing when you act now? When you drop these kind of thinking, you are eradicating seeds of the past. You are not sowing seeds of the future. So the future is now. There is no time involved in that sense. However, to remove all the seeds that we have accumulated in this life, and if you accept many lives and in previous lives, requires time. And here, Krishnaji doesn't say much. At times, he seems to be saying that if you see it sharply and deeply enough, it goes once and for all. He speaks of a mutation. But at other times, he doesn't speak of a mutation. He speaks of this path being hard work. At times he talks about effortless, at times he says it's hard work. Only serious people should come here. Only serious people should listen to these talks and try to understand them. He also has recommended that people watch his videos again and again. If it is all over in a flash, then there would be no need to watch these things again and again. Again, I'm not saying, because otherwise it's a pointless controversy, that for some people may get it in a flash. But most of the people around Krishnamurti did not get it in a flash. Nor did he tell them, okay, you haven't got it, goodbye. But he encouraged them to keep coming. He encouraged them to keep watching and listening to his teachings. Because each time they listened, each time they understood something, some purification was taking place. And if you went away from one of his talks, it's unlikely you would get angry in the immediately after that, even if somebody were to say something provocative to you. So there are two things. There's one level he seems to be talking about sudden enlightenment. At another level, he seems to be talking about a gradual path. Though he says it's a pathless land, when he tells people to listen again and again to the teachings, to preserve the teachings, he is talking about a gradual process of purification. So we need to see if these two things are in contradiction or not really in contradiction. But that is about understanding Krishnamurti and what he meant in a deeper way. And it's a task which, is still left to the foundations and other people who are interested in Krishnaji to understand what is the actual intent of Krishnaji's teaching and how these different things fit together. But right now I'm talking about the futures now, and we've seen that if we don't act in the immediate present, we are going to reinforce all these afflictive states of mind in us. And when we reinforce these afflictive states of mind in us, we are guaranteeing that they will re-emerge in the future. And each of them leads to suffering. Krishnaji tried to look at this suffering in immediate terms. What is the quality of a state of mind which is angry, which is jealous, which is attached? The quality of this mind is poor. When you're jealous, you're seeing everything in a distorted way. So also when you're angry. So also when you're attached. So the mind which is jealous, angry, or attached cannot perceive clearly. So in an immediate sense, the quality of this mind is undesirable. Therefore, from that point of view alone, it is necessary to abandon such states of mind as and when they arise, to let go of them. However, in the Buddhist teaching, it is not just in the immediate present that this quality of mind is bad. It affects the quality of mind in the future. Krishna is also saying this when he says the future is now. But the Buddhists are also saying these bad or poor or unwholesome states of mind, they use the word unwholesome a lot, lead to actions, physical and verbal, which are negative. These actions in turn leave seeds in the mind, and the suffering we experience in life is because of the ripening of those seeds. And of course, the Buddhists talk of many lives. So the suffering is not confined to just this life. In fact, every time you entertain this afflictive state of mind and act on it, you are laying a seed which guarantees suffering unless you purify your mind. Guarantees suffering, if not in this life, in some future life. So the causality in Buddhism is, in a sense, stronger. It's not only leading to poor quality of mind right now and again in this life, but in future lives. And that's why in Buddhism, and perhaps this is true of Krishnaji also, it's not just these afflictive states of mind like jealousy, anger, and so on, which are negative, which are unwholesome, but even states of mind of, say, dullness. You are listening to somebody speak, and 1/10 of your mind is on what is being said. All the rest of your mind is darting here and there, thinking of all kinds of things, preoccupied with other issues. What does it mean? In that moment, your mind is not alert. You are not giving wholesome attention, full attention to what is happening in the present. Now, this can also leave us, and this also leaves a seed. If you go through life, multitasking, not paying attention to what is going on in the immediate present, whether you're talking to somebody or you're working on something, your mind is distracted, then you're laying the seeds of distraction in your mind. And if you lay the seeds of distraction in your mind now, these seeds will assert themselves later in life. Also, if you give in to drowsiness, your mind is not alert. You are listening to what a person is saying, but your mind is not in an alert state. That also leads to seeds in your mind. And from the Buddhist point of view, and I said this may be true of Krishnaji also, but from the Buddhist point of view, these are also very destructive, not just anger and so on. If you get into the habit of not being focused, not being attentive to what is going on in the immediate present, then your mind will become dull. Your ability to pick up and see sharply will be weakened. And we know, for example, that Krishnaji is saying that if you don't see something clearly, then you don't realize what's going wrong. And you're not able to act. For him, very often acting is just seeing very clearly what is going on and the undesirability in your mind, and therefore you let go of that. So when the Buddhists talk about Shila, they're not just talking about don't be angry, don't harm people, etc. They're saying don't give in to lethargy. Don't give in to distraction. Cultivate an alert state of mind. Cultivate an alert posture. Because your state of mind is dependent on the state of your body. There's an interplay between mind and body. When the mind is really alert, the body will be erect. Even if you're sitting, you will sit erect. If the mind is not alert, you will slouch. And vice versa. Sometimes if your mind is dull, the simplest way to rejuvenate it and make it clear is to sit erect and do some deep breathing. Because the breath also connects mind and body. And therefore, sometimes through breathing, you can gather your mind together, which is scattered. So from the Buddhist point of view, when this statement of Krishnaji, the future is now, is completely true. But they're not just saying that the afflictive states of mind or these unwholesome states of mind will repeat themselves unless you deal with them in the present. They're saying these will have consequences in the kind of lives you have, what you experience in life, in this life, in future lives. Therefore, it becomes even more imperative to be fully aware, alert, and mindful in the present. Okay, I'll stop there. Maybe we'll have a little more time for discussion, as I said in the beginning. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajanji. I think you very nicely placed it. It's important for us to be aware of the state we are in, because I don't think the conscious mind has any control on the registration which happens when somebody says something which is pleasant or unpleasant. But if one is aware, then it's possible to create a gap between the registration and the, when there is a flow of emotions and comparison with images and all that, and our reaction, it's possible to do that. And you have rightly said, Christy has also talked about, he says, slow down. And he also said that why don't you write about your thoughts on daily basis and then read them at the end of the day. So I think we can call it time, or we can call it preparation or method, or whatever you call it. But I think if one practices this in our daily life, it's possible to slow down the mind. I know this practice thing may not be liked by many of the participants, but this is a fact. So thank you. I think you have placed it very well and also compared with the Buddhist teachings. Harshad Bhai wants to make some comments. Yes, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, are you able to hear?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Dubeyji. Thank you, Rajan. This time which we are talking about, there are two kinds of time. One is this chronological time, which is due to the movement of the planets, and that goes on. And then there is a psychological time, which depends on the state of mind. So when a person is very happy, alert, time doesn't, you don't feel time. 1 hour may look like 1 minute when the mind is in a good state. But the chronological time is also actually, it varies, but it varies depending on the speed, according to the Einstein's theory. That is also not absolute. Even chronological time is not absolute. But when we talk about future is now, so I imagine that if we draw a horizontal line, and on that line we select one point, and that is where we are. Then on the left, there is a past, and on the right of the line, there is a future, and this point is moving. That means the future is becoming past. But in the present moment, what we call now, there is no time actually. And it means that coming out from the time, and in that moment, there is some insight may happen when the mind is silent and not thinking even about Krishnamurti's teachings or Buddha's teaching, but just looking. And that is a most important thing, because what happens that after reading Krishnamurti or Buddha, people think about what they are saying. So there may come clarity, but it will be intellectual clarity. And it may help maybe in the long term, I don't know. But if we forget what Krishnamurti had said or Buddha has said, and become very, very curious to look at our own mind, how these thoughts are arising. And when there is energy, curiosity, sensitivity, honesty, then even this mind stops and there is a clear seeing. And in that state, if a thought is arising or anger is arising, it can be seen exactly as it is. And that kind of seeing is what Krishnamurti calls acting. So when that seeing becomes the action, so the perception is the action, and that is a real beautiful thing. And that can happen when we become curious, not to understand Krishnamurti or Buddha, but our own mind. And then such moments become more and more. Initially, we lose that uh, kind of clarity, but then if our curiosity remains, then there are more and more moments of this clear seeing happens. It begins to change even the quality of our brain, which Krishnaji would call mutation of the brain cell. And then a time come when there is no effort is made to be aware, but the awareness, effortless awareness goes on. And in that, everything what is coming in our mind, whether it's anger or fear or jealousy, it's seen clearly. And when it is seen clearly, those problems dissolve. So in Krishnamurti's word, in the light of awareness, all problems created by thinking, they dissolve. So that uh, possibility exists for people who become very, very curious to look at their own mind, forgetting everything what they have learned. And that I find it a beautiful thing. And it is a shortcut, I think, not keep on making the intellectual understanding stronger and stronger and slowly affecting, but a sudden flash, which in Buddhism also they call satori or something. When you have seen it, then it changes your life forever. And again, yeah, there may come some disturbance, but the mind is very alert to see it quickly. So that kind of a stable equilibrium comes in our life. So even if there is some disturbance, it is seen very quickly and it gets resolved. So this is what interests me, and that I find it in Krishnamurti teachings. And he says to listener, don't think, don't write down, don't think about it later, but see it now when you are listening. So this can happen even when a person is reading a book and suddenly there is an insight comes. If a person is not trying to understand the meaning of the words, but a sudden insight comes, and this cannot be invited, which cannot be um, predicted, but it happens. Okay, I have said enough thing right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Harshad.
You want me to respond or we'll take some more
You can respond right now. Yeah,
comments?
you can
Yeah, I
respond.
mean, much of what Parekh sir said, I agree with. However, you know, I don't see a distinction between looking at one's mind and reading Buddha's teachings or Krishnamurti's teachings. Both Krishnaji and the Buddha describe the Dharma as a mirror. So when you're actually reading and understanding, developing insight into what they're saying, you're simultaneously developing insight into the nature of your own mind. So I don't see that contradiction. I don't see the need to leave them aside and look at your mind. So there is some difference between me and Parekh sir. I see when I read a text of the Buddha or listen to a talk of Krishnaji, I find myself understanding better how my mind is functioning. Developing insights into my mind. Otherwise, these teachings don't mean much. And I don't accept this intellectual versus direct kind of thing either. But I don't think there's much point in going into that more. the other thing I wanted to remark is that, see, you may get an insight, and he referred to in Buddhism, Satori, it's in Zen Buddhism. It's in one of the schools of Zen Buddhism. But even they, they do play a lot of emphasis on ritual, on practice. If you actually go to a Soto Zen temple, where they talk about the sudden enlightenment and insight, you'll be getting up at 3 in the morning and doing puja and prayers and chanting and so on and so forth till about 9 at night. So obviously we are missing something. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to go into that. The other thing is, Krishnaji just spoke about the immediate time, the immediate life. Though I don't think he actually rejected the teachings on karma, because there was a place, I wish I had noted it down, which I came across, where he said, you people don't really believe in karma. If you did, you would live very differently. So he seemed to be saying, not saying that karma is all nonsense, but saying that there's no point in you people talking about karma because you don't really live according to it.
I think Rajan has power problem. Like darkness. I think he was frozen. Let's see what Mr. Rajendran has to say. Yes, Mr. Rajendran, please go ahead.
So this is a question to Mr. Rajan. I think.
Oh, okay. So we'll wait. Maybe we'll wait.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's hear what Dr. Pradeep Verma has to say.
Okay, I think. Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Rajan has explained most of the things very clearly, but still, certain statements that became, something was striking to me. Now is timeless. Mind can never know about now. Then acting in now, acting, and naturally in bracket without history, then to my imagination, events happen before they are cognized by mind. This is what I know about. I know means I have heard. To my imagination, which is part of my mind, awareness has to be there to witness the ever passing moment. Passing in movement as seen by ever present awareness. So in a way, do you mean to say that awareness controls because self is out anyway? Mind is out because mind is the past. So this awareness is always present and it controls. Then it is the messages to us who are all with selves and mind. So these are certain questions, but awareness ultimately becomes knowledge once it is collapsed. So I'm reminded of the song Ke Sara Sara. Future is not ours to see. So these things have come as insights to even songwriters. So this awareness, little bit of awareness, if you can, this again asking a very paradoxical question. Speaking about awareness, so these are some of the things that have come to me listening to you. Future is now. Is it a concept of co-presence and dialectics? Because holistically, everything is there. Anger is still there in all of us. All those things are there. So because philosophy of critical realism or meta-reality, they talk about this, and it is understandable. Even our traditional darshan says about this, Ishavasyam idam sarvam, and all that. So if you can respond to my some of these tidbits, Rajanji, thank you very much.
Thank you. I think Rajan is not available. Harshad bhai, you want to respond to it? Unmute, unmute.
Yeah, I don't want to respond to Pradeep ji or any other participant, but what I like to say that this looking inward within one's own mind is not easy for most people. It could be very frightening to be alone and direct the attention inward. Like Rajan used the word anger like a cobra. So there are lots of things, unpleasant things are within our mind. And when we begin, we try to look inward, we see unpleasant thing within our own mind. And so we escape from our own mind. But if we don't escape from anger or fear or jealousy and just look, and that looking again, it requires freedom to look. And when that thing happens, then all these problems, fear, they are all coming from thinking only. Fear, anger, jealousy. So when thinking stops, there is silent looking, and in that there is real freedom. But when that looking goes away, then again the thinking may create problems. So one needs to be alert all the time. And when we are not alert, this thinking will create problems, and then it can multiply and it can result into anger and something else. So Krishnaji's teachings is about that ongoing effortless awareness. Without that, there will be problems in our life. There will be all this anger, fear, jealousy, this sense of me, I. Actually, that is also coming from thinking only. And when there is no thinking, there is no sense of I. And then there's a real freedom. So as long as we have not inquired into this, what is this thing which we call I or me, there is no freedom. Only when we become very, very curious, alert, and energetic and sensitive, and even once we experience that there is no such thing as I or me, which is actually a product of thinking, then that insight may lead to look at more and more. And then there may come, it may become our nature to look, not because we want to become free, but it happens. Okay, I have finished. Thank you.
Thank you, Harshad. I think another important thing is, when Christy says the future is now, he perhaps means that if you're not able to see yourself now, you will not be able to do it in the future as well.
Yeah.
That's what it basically means. Yes, Vermaji, you want to say something? Unmute yourself. Unmute. Yeah. Go ahead.
Audible, sir.
Yes.
We all are. At times we make things more difficult for people, saying that this is very difficult, this is very arduous, and there is hardly very few people who get it. So, but when we give such a statement, whereas to me, this reflective consciousness is gifted to us, all of us, provided sheer little honesty. Do we have that honesty? Do I want to know about myself? everybody, to me, they may use a mask over that afterward. That's a different thing. That is their own manipulations and their all those management of people with images. That's a different thing. But it's not difficult to know yourself. This is what I think. It is easy. Everybody knows about himself. And reflective consciousness tells you immediately. So when the only thing is that whether awareness is a part of mind and self or not, and what is self in this, if you say awareness is a part of self, then you have to define it differently than otherwise, because self, where self is not there, other is there, and all those things are come. So we have to be very cautious about these things, because these are not difficult things, sir. These are not difficult. The only thing is honesty. Then you can say honesty is difficult. We can say that to be honest is difficult. So this is the thing. But the fact is, these are not difficult things, sir. Without formal education, people have seen it enough, all of them. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you Verma ji. I think Mr. Rajendran can ask question now because Rajan has joined back. Mr.
Yes, sir.
Rajendran,
Okay,
Yeah.
sir. Let me finish this.
okay.
I fully agree with Dr. Pradeep Verma, who said that it is not difficult, because Krishnaji himself told that self-knowing is the supreme intelligence. So that's not difficult. By saying that it is difficult, we create a belief system, and once the brain believes it, everything follows. Okay, difficult like that. So my question to Shri Rajan is, this self-image is the root cause of getting hurt, etc. And when one is observing, knowing oneself, by observing oneself in the day-to-day activities, that is reading one's own book, what will happen to these self-images? And this question I just want to ask you. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Rajan, you want to respond? Rajan, are you hear us? Unmute yourself. We can't hear you. I think Rajan has some problem with the audio.
Sir, his mic is not connected, sir.
Your mic is not connected. Is it okay now?
No sound is coming, and it's not showing sign of mic.
The mic is not there. Let's listen to what Prasad Garu has to say. Yes, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, sir.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, hi. Namaste to everyone. I just want to add a small point, sir. So I agree with what Rajan sir said, that when we are reading Buddha or Krishna ji, there is no difference between watching our own mind when we are alone and when we are reading Krishna ji. It's the same thing that is happening. But yeah, it is true. As we all know that reading Krishna ji, it makes us to look inside within ourselves and reflect on our own being. I agree to that, but still it's a different quality when we are alone and when we watch without the intensity of Krishna ji, without the intensity of his words or his written words like books or in the discussions like these. So this is outside force, I believe, like whether it is discussion, book, or some video. There is some outside help, and I'm watching myself. But when I when my love for the self knowledge grows, uh, when for anybody, not only for me, but when the love for the self knowledge grows, it becomes more and more natural, and it pass on to the day-to-day relationships and your workplace. So I think that has a different quality, because there is no outside force, but yet you are uh, you are happy looking into yourself, knowing small things. Uh, so this is one thing I would like to add. And then, as Rajan sir said, the Hinduism concepts and many things, like I think it is about reincarnation. Krishnaji said that you believe in reincarnation, but you don't behave as according to your belief. So that is that is one thing. And also, like, if we closely observe, there is something some concept called Maya in generally in we can read in Hinduism or other philosophies, right? Maya. So I thought about it, like, what is it that can come very close to Maya in Krishnaji's teachings? And I think there is one. Like, it could be fear, or it could be pleasure, or it could be something else, conflict. So, what is Maya according to Krishnaji? That is a humble question to the group from my side. What is Maya in Krishnaji's teachings?
My humble comment is that we should not compare Krishnaji's teachings with the
No,
traditional.
sir, it's not comparing. I'm not comparing, but I found it really useful. Like, it's just personal question out of my interest, whether there is such thing as Maya discussed by Krishnaji, and I think I got something there. So I just want to pose the question to the group with a great humility. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mr.
May
Ravi
I
Kaushal.
answer?
Yes, please.
Yeah,
Rajan sir is connected to mic, sir. Ask him to unmute if it is possible for him to do.
Rajan sir, unmute yourself. Yes, yes. You have unmuted. No, it's again muted. Unmute yourself. There's some problem.
Ask him to say something. If he is connected, he can say something.
Where is he? Lost again. Where is Rajan? Rajan is vanished again.
Let other people continue, sir.
Yeah, I think we'll go to Ravi Kaushal. Yes, Raviji, please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
Put your video on, please. Please put your video.
Okay. Okay, sir. Actually, I see that hold the some lecture of that Rajan sir, and actually I don't see what's the question actually. The future is okay. But what actually the question is, so I don't know what Rajan is actually putting on the floor as a question, but I see that there is a question of this Gopad's Prasad ji. So, what is Maya according to K? So, actually, both languages are different. The Maya is the language of the scriptures, and Krishnamurti's language is totally kind of free from all the authorities and all the things. So, but still, we can see that in K, I think that Maya, according what I see is that it is thought, which is Maya, the psychological thought, the self, the knowledge, the experience, all that is Maya, I think, because it is creating, it creates a division between people, between us. So that is the thing I think is Maya. Maybe I'm wrong. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, Harshad bhai, please go ahead.
Yeah, about this Maya, I think it is kind of an imagination, something which is not true. I give an example like suppose you are walking and your friend is coming from the opposite side and you say hello or smile and your friend doesn't respond. And then you begin to think that something has gone wrong with your friend and many things you begin to imagine. But the fact could be that your friend was not aware. His eyes were open, but he did not see you. So when we begin to imagine something which is not there, then that could be called Maya, illusion. Um, no, I wanted to say something about this difficult. Uh, Thousands people go for a football match or listening to some katha, but very few people are able to be alone and very curious and turn their attention inward. And this is very difficult because most people like to escape because what they find within themselves is not very pleasant. So they would like to watch the film or talk with somebody or gossip or politics or economics. So to understand or see ourselves as we are is not very easy. It is very difficult. Very few people are interested. Those who are, and there may be people who are interested in the teachings of Krishnamurti, and they may read it for many years, but even then they feel that they haven't really got it anything. They still have fear. They still have anxiety. So I have seen it in my life because I have worked in many schools. I have looked at people. So that kind of energy, ongoing energy and curiosity to look at oneself day after day, year after year, and feel that this is the most important thing is to understand ourselves as we are is very difficult. It's very, very few people can do it. That's what I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Harshad bhai. I tend to agree with you.
Mm.
Yes, Verma ji, please unmute yourself.
Audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Prasad was asking about Maya. What came to my mind is all the fantasies of mind, most of them desire-based. So those fantasies, they all belong to the category of Maya. What appears but doesn't exist. Illusions, hallucinations, a number of things, and this happens very regularly, even in medical sciences, these cases are treated. So Maya is there, which is not there, but appears to different people based on neurosis or whatever it. Then this is what I had to say about this. Then about Harshad Bhai's again insistence that only few people get it. Only few people can see inside themselves. How do I know about so-called others? How do I know? How do I know Kabir got it? How do I know Meera got it? How do I know Ramakrishna got it? You see, from stories we have heard, we have listened to these stories, parables, and so many things, miracles. So based on that, we say, but do I know? Honestly speaking, I don't know. I don't know any one of these things. So I can hardly talk about, even within a close group with them I live in my family. It is very, very difficult to know exactly the construct of that self and all that. Know about others, what sort of divinity in what form is there in the person concerned. We can never know it. This is, I am telling my ignorance that I don't know. This is all these stories I have read, right from Nasruddin Shah to Osho, a number of things I have read, all those things, but I don't know. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry for the.
You want to respond to Pradeep Verma ji? Did you hear him?
I just heard a bit of what he said, so I don't know what.
Basically about knowing yourself.
Yeah, what was the question? Can you repeat it?
Well, the question was that Harshad Bhai said that to know oneself is extremely difficult. And Verma ji says that, how do I know that Meera was enlightened or Kabir was and so on? So nobody can say definitely about them. If I'm right in this, what, Verma ji? And please unmute yourself. Yeah. And then he said, we can only say about oneself. And I agree that we can only say about ourselves, not about nobody else. Is this what your comment was, Verma ji? You want to add to it?
Yes, because every time we say that it's a very arduous thing. It is very difficult. You see, by saying like this, although JK has said about this also, when you say it is not possible or difficult, you have already blocked yourselves in various. So it is, and most of the people we glorify that he got enlightenment, this fellow was doing like that. I don't know anything about exactly what that means and how do we know. Even JK asked this thing, how do you know that I am enlightened or at all, or anybody else is enlightened? So these, through stories we have captured these ideas and we love them. All those things to attain or achieve a state which is not in me, this may be there. That is what I think. It's not difficult to know yourself. Reflective consciousness helps us every moment. You have to be honest. By saying that honesty is difficult, then again, you have blocked that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Rajan, you want to say something? I should go to the next question.
We'll go to the next question.
Okay. Okay. Yes, Prasad Garu, please unmute yourself. This is the last question now. Yeah.
Sorry, sir. It's actually not the question. So I'm sorry bringing that Maya again, but I heard from Harsha sir and Pradeep sir. So Maya is Maya anyway, so it is still lurking. I am not really. I think they are not the answers. Like Maya is like, as we know, it is coming very near, but it's skipping as it is Maya. So I'm not happy with any of the answers, to be honest. I'm so sorry. But yeah, that is very near, and that is what that is what it comes to our mind initially when I was inquiring about it. But I think we can go much deeper. That is what I want to say very humbly. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed the earlier conversation about Maya, so I can't really say much. But since it's the last question, I just like to say that in a way, in response to Pradeep ji and Prasad ji, that and the important thing, I mean, when I took this topic, the futures now, the important thing is that we are aware of what is going on in our minds. That is something we can do. we have already some degree of awareness. You can't say we don't have any degree of, we don't know what's happening in our minds. We kind of know when we are happy, when we are sad, when we are angry, and so on. But right now, that awareness is perhaps not sharp enough. If we understand what Krishnaji is saying, but the future is now, then I find it tremendously motivating in terms of, okay, it is very important. And Krishnaji says the future is now, to be aware of what's happening now in my mind. Theories are one thing, but to know what's going on in my mind and to see whether what is going on is wholesome or unwholesome. That is very important. The whole path, if you like, or if you don't like the word path, the whole thing, when Krishna says we have to work hard, I think this is what he means. We have to attempt to become more and more acutely aware of what is going on in our mind, because it's going to affect us, irrespective of how it affects others. If we allow these states of mind, these afflictive states of mind to occupy our minds, without us doing anything about it, then they're going to return again and again and again. And the quality of our lives will deteriorate. Even if you don't accept the idea of future lives and rebirth and what kind of rebirth you have, still the quality of your present life will deteriorate. Somebody is talking to you, they're telling you something very important. Your mind is not on it. What is the nature of that relationship? What is the quality of that relationship? Are most of our relationships like this? So it becomes very important to observe and try to be as aware as possible. You can't ask the question, how will I be aware? You just be aware and become progressively more and more aware. There are certain things, like I told you, even your bodily posture and all this helps the mind. So you can work on those things. If you can't work directly on your mind, you can work on those things. There is yoga, it helps. But the important thing is to improve the quality of our mind moment by moment. I'd like to stop with that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. We have come to the end of the session. I want to thank Rajan sir for being with us and giving a very thought-provoking discourse. I'm sorry we missed you for a few minutes because of some power connection problem. I want to make a few announcements about our program. We have been running this talk session from more than 3 years now. We had more than 160 sessions without fail, but we want to make a little change now because 2 reasons. We are not getting speakers and there's no point repeating the same old speaker. So we'll be a little more selective now. On 16th of July and 23rd of July, there'll be no session. But on 23rd, we'll have Professor Hilary Rodriguez from Canada. He'll be speaking to us at 9 a.m. I'll circulate the notice well in advance. 30th July also we'll have Prasad Gogada. He will be talking to us. But from August onwards, instead of having a talk every Sunday, we'll be selective. We'll have it on 1 or 2 Sundays. And only if we get somebody who can share something which is not the run of the mill, but something which is little different, something which can provoke lots of questions and responses from us. So this is our program now. If you have any suggestions to offer, you're most welcome to do it. But from August onwards, it will be maybe 1 or 2 Sundays, like all other KFI study centers are organizing, like especially Calcutta. We'll do something like that. And just to repeat, on 16th and 23rd of July, there'll be no session. But there'll be, on 9th and 16th, there'll be no session. But on 23rd and 30th July, there'll be sessions. I'll communicate to you the timings and so on. and August we'll let you know in Violet Bazaar. So thank you once again, everybody, for being with us. And thank you, Rajan sir, for sparing your time and being with us. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Dubey.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dubey.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye, bye, sir.